All right, you guys, happy Wednesday. Just 3 episodes left. So let's jump right in here. What do I have for you guys today? Dr. Jordan Peterson. Once again, he is setting the internet aflame by, I would just kind of sum this up as refusing to retire, generally just speaking. He just keeps saying stuff now, and he won't just stop saying stuff. And now it's just gone too far because you're not allowed to just do that without being called out. And his new shtick is apparently diagnosing people who disagree with him. We're all just a bunch of political psychopaths, guys. That's what it is if you disagree with people who have certain expertise. Also, we've got an update for you guys in the Shannon Sharpe case. His Jane Doe is dropping more audio clips. And some of you were wondering, if he's not guilty, Candace, why did he offer to pay her out $10 million? Well, I'm going to tell you why he offered to pay her out $10 million. Lastly, I completely failed you guys. I apologize. I so failed you because I somehow missed Katy Perry's post interview that she gave when the Blue Origin flight touched back down onto Earth, and it is indeed exceptional and worthy of review. So let's jump right back in. Welcome back to Candace. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pope is still above ground. He is sitting in a casket, being visited by mourners. We haven't even entered the official period of mourning yet because his funeral has not yet taken place. And yet Jordan Peterson is showing his ass right now over Christ is King. Why? Why is the period of Lent to Easter always like this every year? This is why we cannot have nice things. Jordan Peterson is the reason why we can't have nice things. I want you to know that. Today, by the way, is the Feast of St. George, and feast we shall on Dr. Jordan Peterson. I'm kidding, obviously, or kind of kidding, not really kidding, but I was admittedly early, you will recall, to recognizing that there were just some issues that were presenting regarding Dr. Jordan Peterson. And the issue that I am referring to is that there seemed to be this apparent delta between who he tells us we should be in the form of his lectures and his books, and who he actually is. Okay, this is known as the those who can't teach, or those who can't do, rather, teach doctrine, right? So you can't do it yourselves in your life, but you constantly tell people what they should be doing in their lives, right? The things that you can't accomplish in your own life. And an example of that would be his smash book, the one that catapulted him into an international celebrity, 12 Rules of Life. And this book was about order. He was telling people how to order their lives in the chaotic world that we are in. And it did a lot of good for young men. There's no question about that. I think people should forever buy his book because what they took out of it was very meaningful. And it was at a time when it wasn't fun to be a man at all, right? I mean, I feel like they were constantly getting bashed over the head because we were in this phase of toxic femininity. You know, it was the Me Too movement, men are terrible, toxic masculinity. And then you had people that rose to the surface and said to men basic things that did have a lot of meaning, like clean your room, right? Like that was one of the big things. Jordan Peterson was walk like a lobster and also clean your room. And that was for good reason. Take a listen to him.
What I've recommended to people is clean up your room. That's a good start. Organize your local landscape. Schedule your time. Start taking control of yourself. See if you can stop saying things you know to be lies. That's not the same as telling the truth. You don't get to do that to begin with because you're not good enough at it to even attempt it in some sense. But everyone can stop saying things they know to be falsehoods.
Agreed. Totally agreed with that. But you know what? His own house, his own office didn't look so tidy when he did various interviews from home. For example, this video where he was interviewing someone named Theron Meyer, who he described as a reasonable trans person back in 2016. That's Jordan Peterson's office. That doesn't look like a tidy room. Whatever. That's not a big deal. I'm just pointing out there's little cracks in the mirror that began to appear. There's rule number 8, like he just said, tell the truth or at least don't lie. Rule number 10, be precise in your speech. But does he actually embody any of that himself? As I had mentioned in that previous episode, everything was all very well and good until people began to have questions about Jordan's behavior and some of the confusing narratives which were used to justify or to simply excuse his behavior. There was always an excuse, right? And most notorious among them, obviously, he will go down in history remembered for Apple Cider Gate. Now, if you are not a Jordan Peterson fan, maybe you're a woman, you never really followed his stuff. Of course, you know his name. Apple Cider Gate was something that happened on Joe Rogan's podcast. And the background of that, before he went on Joe Rogan's podcast, he was having sort of these series of debates with Sam Harris. They were matched up to debate God and truth and atheism, which in and of itself was quite confusing because, well, Jordan Peterson, despite the fact that he speaks about God a lot, has never declared himself to be a Christian. So he's debating an atheist, but is he an atheist? He's debating truth. What does he actually believe? And he has definitely, at least I would say, elected himself as an academic leader of faith. And that, again, can register as quite confusing because we don't know what he believes when it comes to religion. But Jordan, like a true academic that he is, does not like being challenged in any capacity. He considers himself to be an expert. And I'll give you an example of that, of him losing it on the audience because they applauded something that Sam Harris said back in 2018 when he pressed him on the topic of his own religion. Take a listen.
What I fear about the way you talk about religion is that at the end of all these conversations, I'm still not sure what you believe on that point, frankly. And if I'm not sure, no one out there is.
Well, I don't know why you would expect to be sure about what someone believes. How do you think that any one of you are capable of fully articulating what you believe? You certainly aren't. You are not. That's completely ridiculous. You're not transparent to yourself by any stretch of the imagination. You act out all sorts of things that you can't articulate.
But how about a best guess? Yeah.
You know, if you look, let's go all cognitive neuroscience on this, shall we? 99% of your processing is unconscious. You're not capable of articulating yourselves. If you were, you'd be omniscient. Okay, but don't give me any nonsense about that.
All right. Okay. Don't give him any nonsense about that. Don't ask him to clarify what he believes in the topic of religion while he's debating the topic. At any rate, after a series of these appearances and discussions with Sam Harris, Jordan went on to Joe Rogan and kind of halfway explained that he hadn't been feeling well in some other discussions where they were kind of going round and round and he was unable to give a basic definition of what truth was. And the reason that he gave to the public was that he was going through an unusual medical episode, which indeed involved apple cider. Take a listen.
One of the things that both Michaela and I noticed was that when we restricted our diet and then ate something we weren't supposed to, the reaction to eating what we weren't supposed to was absolutely catastrophic.
What did you do? What did you switch to? Or what did you eat, rather?
Well, the worst response, I think we're allergic to, or allergic, whatever the hell this is, having an inflammatory response to something called sulfites. And we had some apple cider that had sulfites in it, and that was really not good. Like, I was done for a month. That was the first time I talked to Sam Harris.
You were done for a month?
Oh, yeah. It took me out for a month. It was awful.
Really?
Yeah. So I would say, look.
So this is right before this whole truth conversation with Sam Harris that got stuck in the mud. During.
So I think the day I talked to Sam was like the worst day of my life. Not because of talking to Sam, but it was
just physically.
Oh, Jesus, I was so dead. But I didn't want to not do it. Because
apple cider, like what was it doing?
Sulfites in it.
What was it doing to you?
Oh, it produced an overwhelming sense of impending doom. And I seriously mean overwhelming. Like, there's no way I could have lived like that if that would have lasted for... See, Michaela knew by that point that it would probably only last a month, and I was like...
A month?
Yeah,
from
a month.
Cider?
Oh, I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days. I didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep at all for 25 days.
How is that possible?
I'll tell you how it's possible. You lay in bed, frozen in something approximating terror for 8 hours, and then you get up.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Not good.
And this is from cider, from cider.
That's what we thought, yeah.
I'll admit I'm not an expert. I just know that apple cider is just an apple. It's just an apple being juiced. And they don't add anything to it. It's just an apple. And I have never, prior to that discussion, heard of that sort of a reaction. Now, this conversation, to be clear, Took place in 2018. Okay. And then shortly thereafter, the official storyline got even more confusing for people that were fans of Jordan Peterson, and I counted myself among them. Officially, the public was told that Jordan had entered various rehabs from Toronto to New York to Russia to treat benzo addiction. That's what we were told by the press, the New York Post, the New York Times. And then we were told from his daughter, Michaela, that it was not an addiction, but it was a dependency that came from a food diet that went awry. Okay. I'm going to read this next portion directly because it's legitimately that confusing, and I don't want to face allegations that I'm not understanding things because I'm not an expert. This is directly from an article in the New York Times. They spoke directly with the Peterson family, and then this was widely reported. It reads, quote, Michaela, 28, her Russian husband, and Peterson began the diet in 2016, but all three had a violent sodium metabisulfite response. She said it was, quote, really awful, but it hit him the hardest, Michaela told the Times. He couldn't stand up without blacking out. He had this impending sense of doom. He wasn't sleeping. Peterson has previously claimed that he didn't sleep for 25 days during this time, but the longest period of human sleep deprivation that's ever been recorded is only 11 days, the paper notes. He was prescribed a low dose of antidepressants, which helped him recover. But the dosage was increased after Peterson sunk into a depression following his wife Tammy's cancer diagnosis. Quote, and things just fell apart insanely with Tammy. Every day was life and death in the crisis for 5 months, Peterson told the paper. The doctors said, well, she's contracted this cancer that is so rare, there's virtually no literature on it, and the 1-year fatality rate is 100%. So endless nights sleeping on the floor in the emergency and continual surgical complications. And then there's an ellipsis and says, so I took benzodiazepines. Okay, that is the full quotation. I'm reading it exactly. We then learned that Tammy recovered from complications with a kidney surgery, but Peterson's drug dependency worsened. Michaela says, quote, Dad started getting super weird. It manifested as extreme anxiety and suicidality. Michaela, who the Times reports, seems to have assumed full charge of his affairs. Okay, that's a lot to work through. There's anxiety medicine, there's antidepressant medicine, there's meat and greens and apple cider, which began it all. And I'm not kidding when I say I am not an expert, so I legitimately do not understand it at all, okay? With Peterson, there seems to be, ironically, in every situation that I have found, and I think that many of the young men who no longer follow him have found, never any accountability, always just something that only the experts can understand. And what I understand as a non-expert is addiction is an affliction that is a part of almost every single person's life that I know. I come from a family, and I grew up in a family with addicts. That is going to, as a part of my growing up story, okay? These addicts don't have glossy degrees. They don't have extensive vocabularies. They don't have estates. So they'll forever just be known as addicts, not dependents, not from food, whatever it is. They're not flying to Russia. They're just addicts. And what I can say is that if you're wondering why, this is a moment, why there are so many non-experts that are registering to people as more truthful than those that are from the upper echelon of society. Take a look no further than Theo Von, okay? Theo Von, I'm just going to do the totally opposite description in the press, went and sat across from President Trump and discussed his past addictions like this. Take a listen.
How did you get addicted? How did?
No, I would just do cocaine. That was really, yeah. So not just, yeah.
That's down and dirty, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it was, yeah.
But you don't anymore?
No, I don't do it anymore, man, and I'm not doing it.
Is it too much? Too much to handle?
Some of the stuff started to get a real rattle in it, too. I don't know where we were even getting it from in this country, but yeah, it started to make me feel like I was a mechanic or something.
So the thing you go back to then is alcohol for the most part.
Right, yeah, but what I want probably is cocaine, but I know that if I have a drink, then it'll be like, okay, well, I had a drink, then I can do this.
Is cocaine a stronger
oh, yeah.
up?
Yeah. Cocaine
so you're way up with cocaine more than anything else you can think of.
Cocaine will turn you into a damn owl, homie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You'll be out on your own porch, you know, and you'll be your own street lamp. You're freaking.
And is that a good feeling? Well,
no,
it's horrible. A miserable feeling.
But you do it anyway, just like the guy you're saying with the scotch.
just told President Trump that if he did cocaine, he would be his own street lamp, his own owl. Still my favorite interview that President Trump has ever given, because it was just so relatable, and it just feels good to hear something that sounds relatable. And also, you are always rooting for people, always, especially if you grew up like me, that overcome addiction. It's great to see Theo Von so clear-eyed and discussing that and maintaining a sense of humor. Anyways, just showing you that contrast, because I think it so clearly represents what's happening right now as we're starting to see this delta of opinions of people who are very angry and frustrated that people who can laugh like Joe Rogan and Dave Smith and Theo Von are being given a platform, while people who deem themselves experts and can tell us what's happening psychiatrically and what's happening due to reports are just annoying. I'm being honest, like literally, it's just so annoying to be preached at by these people as if like their experiences are somehow more valid, or like we can't comprehend their experiences. Like there's just such a gap between people like Theo Von and the way that they live their lives without these fancy degrees. That's what it is. That's what we're really getting to the heart of. What was Jordan Peterson's rule number 6? Well, it was set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And I would say that that is not a rule that he has attempted to follow, because all he does for people who are engaged on X, and don't get me wrong, he will forever have boomers that support him. I'm not saying all, because some of them are very much on X and know what's going on, but people that are not like on social media accounts and don't see the various meltdowns and the way he speaks to people really think that Jordan Peterson is plugged in and that he's well put together. But actually, the inability to withstand any sort of pushback or criticism without completely losing it on people should be Jordan Peterson's Twitter bio. Mr. Clean Up Your Room needs to kind of clean up his Twitter feed. And that was kind of one of the things that I was pointing out. He was calling people psychopathic rats when he got angry. He talks about, being calm in moments of chaos. The second October 7th happened, he was on Twitter and he tweeted to Netanyahu, "Give him hell, enough is enough," And people just began looking at him differently, going, everything that you said in your book, you do not embody. Not even on your X feed, where you can execute some control. You're not live. You know what I mean? You could just put down the phone. And I obviously have been on the receiving end of this, had nothing but a fine relationship with Jordan Peterson. I opened for him years ago, actually, on his 12 Rules tour. And he called me a pharisaical pretender. This is a real tweet, because I said Christ is king. This is the one that Christ is king has broken so many people's brains. It's amazing. It's incredible why the declaration that Christ is king has broken so many people's brains. I wasn't even speaking to him. I was speaking to somebody else. And I said, thank you for re-upping this most crucial conversation about Christ is king almost exactly a year later. And once again, during the season of Lent, after a year of thoughtfulness, I want you to know that I will never stop declaring it. Is anything about that tweet? Keep that back up. Anything about me saying that make you think that someone should be jumping in and calling you a pharisaical pretender? Well, that's what Dr. Jordan Peterson does on X. This is how he behaves on X. Okay. There's just long threads of him writing these like poetry, like literally it reads like poetry, but he's calling people names, ad hominem attacks. He writes Candace Owens, a true pharisaical pretender. Again, this is a guy who has not asserted that Christ is anything in his life. He is not baptized, and he gets angry when people push him on what his religion is. She vociferously proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to elevate her perceived status. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth from the rooftops, but to build bridges or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. She's literally using God's name in vain. There are few more unforgivable sins. Okay. Or I just said Christ is king because there was a renewed attack on the phrase, which was being sponsored by Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson teamed up with the ADL and the NCRI to try to label any political dissidents of theirs mentally ill. Okay. I think it's the thing that he's done that's been the most beyond the pale for me. For me, it's hang it up. I am not a fan of Dr. Jordan Peterson anymore because I see right through this. You'll recall, like I said, during that Lent, to him and 12 non-Christians, it was like 10 Jews and I think it was 2 other people who were, we didn't know what their background was, to state that Christ is king is a form of political extremism. I'm not kidding. Take a look. This was if you forgot, thy name in vain, how online extremists hijacked Christ is king. Utterly absurd to say, completely ridiculous. And you will note the NCRI actually is known for And by the way, to be clear, like Jordan Peterson has now gone on tour, which is why he's trending again today, because he's trying to justify this report saying that, like, we can't say Christ is king, according to Jacob Zucker, Joel Finkelstein, Rev. Johnny Moore, and Dr. Lee Jusum, Sonia Yanofsky, and Alex Goldenberg. They got together and said, Gideon Führer, Simon Lazarus got together and said, you guys can't say Christ is king anymore. And Jordan Peterson slapped his name on this. He starts the attack on Christ is king. Nobody said it. And then he's upset when people come back and are like, we're gonna still declare Christ as king. And he used my name in this report. He used Jack Posobiec's name in this report, Andrew Tate's name, and of course, Nick Fuentes' name, trying to pretend that this phrase was somehow extreme. And like I said, he's now taking that report public and doing rounds of propagandist media, calling people political psychopaths who say Christ is king. I'm not kidding. But of course, trying to make it sound like a lecture. Like he's just such a learned man. This is him on Sean Hannity being very intellectual about it.
Well, I think the most important thing to do first is to draw a distinction between the political and the psychological and not to collapse them together. So imagine this. Imagine that there's a group of individuals, about 4% of the population, who have a set of personality characteristics that have been described as dark tetrad. So they're Machiavellian, they use their language to manipulate, they're narcissistic, they want unearned social status and reputation, they're psychopathic, which makes them free of empathy and parasitical and predatory, and they're sadistic. So they take positive delight in the unnecessary suffering of others. Now, those people also use false cries of victimization, let's say, to manipulate, and they're entitled. They seek vengeance when it's unwarranted, and they protest loudly and make very public cries for reparations that would be self-serving. Okay, now the way those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as king as a manipulative strategy by bad actors, hypothetically on the right. And this report identified the same sort of people on the left. But it's not primarily political. They're wolves in sheep's clothing who look for where there's power and value and then adopt those beliefs as a surface camouflage so that they can elevate their moral status. Now, and this has become worse in recent years as far as I'm concerned, because the evolved strategies that we have for dealing with these psychopathic types, psychopathic narcissistic types, don't work well online. And so the psychopaths can get away with their terrible manipulations online, and they can find like-minded people, and they can escape from any reputational consequences. And so there's always been psychopaths. Those are the Pharisees, for example, that Christ points to, the religious pretenders. Those are the people who use God's name in vain and claim moral virtue and even religious devotion. Well, all they're doing is feathering their own nests and furthering their own narrow interests. And the web, social media, anonymity enables them to organize and also hides them much more effectively. And this is a problem in religious organizations, it's a problem in political organizations, and it pathologizes the whole culture. You know, most people, 80% of Americans agree on virtually everything. And then there's these fringe people, and they're not political. They're psychopathological narcissists who cloak themselves in political guise. And we all have to learn to distinguish between the political and the psychological. We're not good at it.
Man, imagine someone sent that in a text message. It's like super long. Man, how would you even respond to that? It's just ridiculous. All that over 3 words, Christ is king. What broke you? What are you doing? Has he realized how bizarre that all sounds? And I want you to really take the measure and focus here of the words he's using. He's trying to diagnose dissidents who won't listen to him. You can see he's growing increasingly angsty, really trying to sell this to people. Like, you really got to watch out for these people. Ironically, he keeps bringing up the Pharisees. The Pharisees were people who did not follow Christ and who did not declare that Christ was king and who were behind his persecution and did not, therefore, establish the fact that they had faith in him. That would be you, okay, seeing yourself as a teacher. We're going to use this analogy, seeing yourself as a teacher who knows what's right and what's wrong, but also will not declare whether or not you yourself are a follower of Christ. That, like, I don't even understand how he thinks that he is fit to lecture Christians on what true Christianity is by teaming up with a large group of Jews. It makes entirely no sense. But the words he uses, Machiavellian, dark triad, psychopathy, narcissism, is that sounding familiar to you? Do you guys remember hearing those words before? It's because the very same group that he teamed up with to do that report with, the NCRI, was behind the exact same language that was pushed in the media to describe people who were dissidents of the COVID vaccine. Okay, if you don't remember this, I'm going to show it to you. Look at this. A contagion of institutional distrust, viral disinformation of the COVID vaccine, and the road to reconciliation. Here's another headline. The dark triad, literally what he talks about, and COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy. The role of conspiracy beliefs and risks perception. This is an actual excerpt from this published document. And the media went crazy and said, oh, you're actually a psychopath if you don't get the vaccine. Oh, if you don't listen to the government and roll up your sleeve and get the vaccine, and you're like going to visit your grandma, not letting her die alone, you're a psychopath. Do you guys remember these articles? It was like literally one day we woke up and it was like, look at your friend who won't get the vaccine, they're psychos. This is an excerpt from that publication. It says, with the spread of the coronavirus disease pandemic, the mass vaccination plan represents the primary weapon to control the infection curve. Unfortunately, vaccine hesitancy also spread out worldwide. This led to exploring the critical factors that prevent vaccination from improving the efficacy of vaccine campaigns. In the present study, the role of the dark triad, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism in vaccine hesitancy was investigated. This is literally doing what they just did a couple of years ago to people that were like, yeah, no, I'm good. People like me. I was like, I'm actually good. I'm not going to, you rolling out this vaccine, I'm not going to get it. And I'm going to encourage people to make sure they do their research because you only have one body. And then we get proven right. And all the experts who participated in this and wrote these articles and tried to explain away to people why you got to trust the experts were proven wrong. So yeah, if that is all sounding very familiar to you, the idea that you can turn it into a pathology, people disagreeing with you. If you disagree with me ever, if anybody in the comments disagrees with me, I got to tell you guys, it's a pathology. There's something wrong with you. You're a sociopath. You're a psychopath. You're like Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, what? Well, just so you guys know, that's a Soviet tactic. It's a Soviet tool of repression. For those of you that joined the book club, wait until we get into Sigmund Freud, okay? Because what he is actually doing is he is being a perfect psychologist or psychiatrist. That's what he is modeling himself after Sigmund Freud, okay? They developed these Soviet-like tactics to control the masses, to socially engineer our behavior, to make people think there was something wrong with them if they didn't conform to groupthink. Showing you this right here, psychiatry as a tool for coercion in post-Soviet countries. It reads, this is a study that was done by the European Parliament, which describes that between the period of the 1960s and the 1980s in the USSR, psychiatry was turned into a tool of repression. Soviet psychiatry was cut off from the world psychiatry and developed its own highly institutional and biologically oriented course, providing at the same time a scientific justification for declaring dissidents mentally ill. That is what Jordan Peterson is doing, okay? He is unable to win the argument on just him being able to debate. And so he's now essentially saying, he did an appearance on Joe Rogan and said the same thing, anyone who disagrees with me is mentally ill. It's dangerous Soviet type thinking, which maybe makes sense when you weigh it against the bizarre collection of Soviet era paintings of Vladimir Lenin, which Jordan Peterson has spoken about publicly that he collects in his house. Like him and his daughter have spoken about how they've got like so many paintings of Vladimir Lenin in their house. And she grew up with Vladimir Lenin paintings. And I believe that he even named his daughter after Gorbachev, if I'm correct. This is Michaela Peterson. talking about growing up with hundreds of Soviet paintings in Dr. Peterson's house, her father's house. Take a
What
listen.
was it like growing up with Jordan as your dad? Imagine if your entire childhood you spent watching Jordan Peterson YouTube videos. My dad is really a lot like he is on YouTube. If you've seen any of his lectures or looked at his old courses, that was kind of what dinner table conversation was like. I learned a lot about psychology. I know a lot about personality. I didn't know it was weird until I was like 24 or until he got famous. And then I realized it was weird. We had 37 different colors of paint in our house, over 100 paintings. All the walls were completely covered in Soviet art. I once had a Lenin painting fall on me while I was sleeping.
Okay, like I said, weird. He's described it as he got interested in 2001 and began collecting a bunch of eBay paintings that were being sold on eBay. And that's how he formed a collection, because he was interested in the cycle of every 15 years, something coming back into relevancy. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that stands for. All I know is that you should be alarmed by Jordan Peterson teaming up with the ADL, who are speech censors, to try to justify people, or at least trying to diagnose, rather, people who are just simply declaring that Christ is king. And you should be even more alarmed by the fact that nobody said it when they dropped this report. They just dropped it this Lent season, and now he's doing a tour trying to divide people politically by saying, well, those are political psychopaths. You don't want to be like the Christians. You don't want to be like the Christians. You don't want to be like the Catholics. You don't want to be like these group of people who think Christ is king. And I do want to also say this, because at root of this is his bizarre obsession with Nick Fuentes. There's others, like they are like in a bubble, and you just have to recognize that most people in the world don't know who Nick Fuentes is, but these people, the Seth Dillons, the Joel Berrys, they obsess over everything he does, and they believe everyone in the world is watching and doing whatever Nick Fuentes says, and he's gotten under their skin. That's the reality. These people are being broken by troll accounts, and they're now spending real money to try to control and censor our speech. And it's just not going to work, okay? You're not going to tell Christians how to behave. You're not a Christian. You're not going to tell, especially on this day, the Feast of St. George, who was martyred for refusing to back down on his faith. You're not going to tell Christians. That phase is over. Christians are going to start standing up for our faith. I'm going to be one of them. And to the extent that you have a problem with me declaring that Christ is king, because he is and forever will be, then I am going to be a thorn in your side. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. All right, guys, want to remind you about Preborn. You know, I love them. We live in a culture that tells women that motherhood is a burden, that choosing life is the end of their freedom. That is obviously a lie. Preborn is the nation's largest pro-life organization. They stand for truth. They believe that women deserve better than abortion, and they're proving it every single day through free ultrasounds and compassionate care for up to 2 years after a baby is born. Preborn is helping women see their strength, their value, their future. And when a woman sees her baby on an ultrasound, she's twice as likely to choose life, not because someone forced her to, but because she saw the truth for herself. It's about empowering women to make informed decisions and showing them that they do not have to be alone. So if you'd like to give to this amazing organization, just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. Also, Good Ranchers. Well, we know that with tariffs going into effect, families across the country are bracing for another wave of price increases at the grocery store. But GoodRanchers.com is tariff-proof because of their 100% American supply chain. Good Ranchers allows you to get a stable price for unbeatable quality meat that's grown right here in the USA. Good Ranchers is also giving you your pick of free meat for life when you subscribe. That's free ground beef, wild-caught salmon, seed oil-free chicken nuggets. My kids love those. Or bacon in every box for the life of your subscription. That's $300 of free meat your first year, second year, and every year for as long as you stay, and you're definitely going to want to stay. The average family throws away $500 of meat and seafood per year. Good Ranchers helps you waste less with their individually packaged, vacuum-sealed cuts that are good for a year in the freezer. Plus, you can only pay for what you eat because you don't have to trim a ton of the meat off before cooking it. They are pre-trimming all of their meats. The butchers do that so that you get more for your money with every bite. So visit goodranchers.com, unlock your free meat for life, and $40 off is what you will get with my code Candace if you use it at checkout today. Don't leave your food up to chance. Claim $40 off and free meat for life with code Candace at goodranchers.com. All right, guys, updates on the Shannon Sharpe case. Okay, so there's been some new audio. We covered this yesterday. A girl, apparently he was negotiating with this girl behind the scenes. And what we are hearing from that girl's side is that he made a substantial offer. $10 million to try to settle this thing. Obviously, settlement talks blew up and now it's public, and her team filed this in the Nevada courtroom. He is fighting this heavily. He's basically named his accuser, a girl named Gabriella, even named her OnlyFans account, and basically telling a story that they were kind of into this kinky, choke you kind of, I don't know why people are into that, but it definitely seems like she, via her text messages, which are unconfirmed at this moment, but I'm assuming they are real, was asking for him to choke her, and it was dirty. It was just dirty, dirty talk. She said that her butt cheeks cost $50,000. That's what she told him. I'm just telling you, I'm reading the text messages, okay? Well, anyway, some of you guys were asking the question, Candace, like, why would he offer her $10 million if he wasn't guilty? And I'm telling you why he was offering her $10 million, because Shannon Sharpe was in talks. People were going to buy his entire podcasting network because, you know, he's been podcasting and doing all of these things. And the deal was supposedly worth $100 million. So look at this, okay? This is Shannon Sharpe Eye's $100 million podcast deal as volume contract expires. He was on the brink of a $100 million deal. And he was being, we don't know who were pitching him in the background, a $100 million for a podcast deal. That is like Joe Rogan level. His volume contract was expiring. He was probably in negotiations. Who knows who it was with? Maybe it was Spotify, maybe it was Apple. And then this woman comes forward and she's like, I'm going to release all this publicly, or I'm going to sue you. And your instinct has got to be to shut that down, okay? Because we're talking about the difference of $90 million. You pay her $10 million to go away, and you're signing a $100 million deal. Regardless of whether you are guilty or innocent, these text messages hit the public, and you are probably not going to close that deal, okay? Because that is going to harm your professional reputation, your personal reputation, and that's what happened here. He fumbled the bag no matter which way you slice it, okay? Because as a company, you don't sign those kinds of deals without morality clauses. And so it's very likely that he may also lose his ESPN deal, which is what we're hearing today. I think it was TMZ reported that he's on the brink of losing his deal with ESPN because they're just tired of the scandals, the immoral scandals that he's involved in. And yes, like I said yesterday, he may not be a rapist, but there's no question that he's immoral. I mean, you know, I think in her lawsuit, she's now stipulating that she was 19 when she met him at the gym. He's 54 years old. He's speaking to her. I'm going to choke you, all this stuff. Even if it was consensual, right? You are probably going to run afoul of your morality clause. Your morality clause means that if you sign a deal with Candace Owens and Candace Owens, you know, is caught at a bar in her spare time blowing cocaine off of a bar, you have a right to fire her because it's a bad look for your company. And this is, like I said, this is what he likely ran afoul of. ESPN is unlikely to renew his contract if they even let him finish his contract. His podcast deal, I'm predicting, is going to completely fall through the cracks. You can't just like every couple of months have a sex scandal. And that's where he's at. He's not living well. He's not living moral. And he's another person who needs to find God. Anyways, his accuser has now released even more audio of them talking about he's going to choke her. He doesn't care what she thinks. And I'm going to allow you to listen to that now. Take a listen.
Well, what, Gabby?
Well, you're coming to LA tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it, Gabby.
Well, okay.
Okay, what?
Well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
Yeah, I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
It's not a good look, Shannon.
Not a good look that you do what the you did to me.
Okay, well...
Well, what?
So right there, the giveaway to me is when he says big black guy chokes small white woman, that there's a kink going on here. Because that's just not something that people just say in like regular parlance. And it seems like he is used to saying that to her. And her text messages kind of show that's how they normally talk to each other. But now she's trying to catch him on a video. So obviously he's saying this is all out of context and this was the nature of their relationship. I tend to believe that just right off of the bat. that this was the nature of their relationship. But again, he's immoral. So not going to feel bad here. I don't obviously want him to be prosecuted for rape because I think that would be ridiculous. And I also don't want him to be shaken down because I think that would be ridiculous. But if he faces consequences for his actions, in meaning like, if ESPN says we can't renew you anymore, then that would be a consequence for your actions of just not living more moral, just being a better person in life. So we will see what happens. Okay, lastly, the thing that I want to get to is I let you guys all down. I did not know that Katy Perry was interviewed when she landed, and I somehow missed it. And I was scrolling through Instagram, and I think it was Ali Stuckey that was actually commenting on it. I follow her, and I couldn't believe that I missed it. I was like, how did I not see this interview? It is amazing. It is hilarious. It is perfect. So I want to let you know off the bat, Katy Perry is having some space regret. She's regretting her Blue Origin space flight as she struggles with the continued criticism. This is from the Daily Mail, of her bizarre behavior following the backlash. And she's having some second thoughts because I don't know what they thought it was going to be. It was just such a Spice Girls mission. I don't know how we were supposed to react to their behavior of girl power, or how strange you're looking at a phone and taking selfies when you're in space, allegedly. You're not looking out the window to like catch the view. And now you're coming back and we did this for women. We did this to make space for women. So I just want to let you guys listen to, in case you haven't heard it, I'm sorry, I'm so late to allow you to hear it, what Katy Perry said when she was interviewed. Here's a clip of her speaking about the experience. Take a listen.
Katy!
Katy. Of the group. No, you're not the crier of the group.
Feeler of the group.
No, you are not.
I'm crier.
I'm going to tell you something right now. You are officially an astronaut.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel super connected to love. So connected to love. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give, and how loved you are until the day you launch.
We had these incredible shots of Daisy watching you as the rockets, it'll make me cry, as the rockets going up, and she was so proud. Just kept saying, Mommy, Mommy. And I know you'll feel the same way when you watch it. And you brought a real life Daisy up.
That's
it was
right.
important for you, not only because it's your daughter's name, but why else was that important to bring it?
Daisies are common flowers, but they grow through any condition. They go through cement, they go through cracks, they go through walls. They are resilient. They are powerful, they are strong, they are everywhere. Flowers are, to me, God's smile, but it's also a reminder of our beautiful earth and the flowers here and God's smile and the beautiful magic that is everywhere, all around us, and even in a simple daisy. So to really appreciate it and remember it and take care of it and protect it.
Do you think they were high? Like, I don't know, like on LSD or something? Like not high in the capsule, but like high, you know what I mean? Like I just feel like it's a music festival. Oh, I feel connected. I love you. We are one with the world. Look at this daisy. It grows through anything. Colors, hands moving. You think they were just high? My editor was like, yeah, daisies grow through everything because they're weeds, Katy. It's like, it's just a stereotype of what it means to be a woman with this space mission. But I'm glad it happened because it kind of made us all happier in a weird way. It made us all happier. We are laughing at this mission and it's fantastic. And no one was laughing harder than Tim Dillon, who is a very funny comedian who had a lot to say about this LSD mission. Take a listen.
All they did was sit in a thing. That's literally all these bitches did, was sit in a little pod and then float. They did nothing. They didn't do a damn thing. They didn't build the rocket. They didn't, these bitches got invited on a trip. You got invited to your friend's lake house. And you had fun going tubing and eating s'mores. You don't go back to your other friends on the block and say, They're like, yo, you got back from Bill's Lake House? Yeah, it was an important moment. We went tubing and ate s'mores. We stayed up till 3 a.m. And we realized that the unity that we built, it's like people be like, dude, you suck. What is wrong with you? They're trying to make you believe that these pointless rich adventures mean something to your life. And you're just doing rich. That's all you're doing. This is the problem with that Imagine video during COVID when they were all standing in like mansions going, imagine all the people. And people are like, bitch, I live in a tiny apartment and you're standing in the back of your yard and you don't care about a quarantine and you don't care that you can't work and you don't care that your business got shut down because you're like walking around your yard picking fruit and singing Imagine, but we're all here.
That's the perfect description, the perfect analogy. They just continue to be cringe. Wealthy people just continue to be cringe and so out of touch. And that is right. During COVID, they're like, oh, just stay at home. But they're in their mansions. And of course, they have tons of space. And they're telling you to be totally fine in your small apartment, telling us to be totally fine. I mean, it's just ridiculous, permanently out of touch. And that is why people like Tim Dillon and, like I said, Joe Rogan and people like Theo Von are just much favored because they're still on Earth. They're still on Earth with us. You know what I mean? Anyways, before I read some of your comments about today's episode, I want to remind you about Field of Greens because, you know, I'm human, you're human. We don't always like to eat healthy. If you don't always like to eat healthy, that's why doctors created Field of Greens. It's a daily glass of Field of Greens is like nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism, even healthy weight. I love the energy that I get from Field of Greens, but most of all, I love the convenience of how easy it is to get my greens every day. It's nutrition that my body needs daily, and only Field of Greens makes you better. It makes the better health promise to you. Your doctor will notice that you have improved health or you will get your money back. And let me get you started with a special discount. I got you 20% off of your first order. All you have to do is use code Candace at fieldofgreens.com. That's code Candace at fieldofgreens.com. Lastly, reminding you about American financing again, because interest rates have dropped and it's time to take advantage. A lot of Americans are struggling to keep up with everyday bills, eggs, coffee. Many are reaching for the credit cards to pay for this. If you're a homeowner, interest rates have fallen into the fives. It's nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate. American Financing is helping homeowners like you save an average of $800 a month by tapping into your home's equity and wiping out high interest debt. And the best part is there are no upfront fees to get started. Credit card rates are insane. And if you're carrying a balance every month, you're stuck in an endless cycle. Break free today. Call American Financing and see how much you could be saving. And if you start right now, you may even delay the next 2 mortgage payments. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or simply visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, what are you guys thinking in the chat? Oh, Michael, you psychopath. Michael M. writes, Christ is risen. Wow, Michael, you're going to go on a list. I can't. Thank you, dear Candace. I have long believed Peterson to be fully discredited. Great job in exposing him. Quote, then you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. Yeah, I just kind of fell out of love with him, you know? And I actually was never like, I'm not a guy, so like it didn't appeal to me. Like I was already making my bed, I guess, or whatever, cleaning my room, but I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. I do understand it in the context of, like I said, of kind of the way masculinity was being perceived in that moment in time. But beyond that, I just don't see how anyone can follow him on X and take him seriously. He just attacks people. He's like an attack dog. And everything he ever says about maintaining calmness and being collected and thinking through things is just not how he lives his life. Neither him nor his daughter, by the way. So yeah, that's where I stand on Jordan Peterson. I'm just not impressed. AVDN writes, you are truly a woman of grace. Don't be quick to anger. Ecclesiastes 7:9, another person would have launched a lawsuit after that report by Jordan Peterson. He took a clip and edited it out of context to make you look bad. Christ is king. You know what I mean? Like I truly believe at the end of the day, truth wins. And so I just took it, and people saw it for what it was. It was absurd. Like I said, I'm also helped by the fact that you guys watch this show every day. So you're getting to hear me my own words, and it makes it more absurd and more funny when you guys hear people that then try to tell you that I'm on here like supporting Adolf Hitler. You're like, that's just like not what she said. And we're falling out of love with the media. We are falling out of love with the experts. So he can just be thrown onto the pile. At least that's my perception. Galileo writes, Candace, I went to visit St. Michael's Abbey in OC, California. Little did I know they hosted Jordan Peterson. I found that odd and didn't like it since it was around last September after the Christ is King issue. Like I said, I think he will always have a place amongst boomers who think that he's plugged in because he initially was with the youth movement. And now I think the youth movement has fallen out of love with Jordan Peterson, and they will go to him and, you know, he'll write columns and the New York Times Weekly, and, you know, they'll, oh, it's Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's so great. That's fine. I don't care if that's what he's relegated to. I don't wish bad on him. I really don't. I actually pray for him and his family. I will pray for him and his family. I haven't yet, but I'll pray for them. Like, I pray for his conversion. I hope that he actually becomes a Christian and recognizes how demonic these attacks are. Like, trying to pretend that you're working on something medical when you're just being really petty and small, and you're upset about troll accounts on the internet that have nothing to do with the overwhelming amount of Christians who declare Christ as King like I do, because we know that's the truth. So it's nothing to hate. There's no anger in my heart towards. I would sit down with him tomorrow. I would literally, if he was like, hey, I texted me, can I come on your show so we can talk about Christ being King? I'd be like, yes, let's absolutely do it. But don't yell at my audience if they applaud. That's it. No screaming. Okay. Jutskull writes, could JP's condition be part of the same MK Ultra, given he was reaching so many people with a message of Christianity, and now he is dependent of the same people that control the rhetoric? I don't know what's going on with him. I really don't. I've never looked into, the genealogy of Jordan Peterson. I think he actually did go to McGill University, though. I might be making that up, but I think he did go to McGill University. Can you check that, Skylar, where MK Ultra was? You know me, I'm always looking up MK Ultra stuff, but likely not. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know what is going on with him. I just know that I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted watching him have these sort of sonnet breakdowns on X. I'm exhausted with him name calling people. I'm exhausted with him then doing that and then pretending he's some sort of like an academic leader in thought. If you can't control your own emotions, you have no business being on the internet, you know, and having a platform, having the platform that you do, if you can't control your emotions. And he got his PhD at McGill. Oh my gosh. My producer just told me that in my ear. It's not voices that I hear. There's actually an earpiece. But he did get his PhD at McGill. Rosalinda Lozano writes, pray for Jordan Peterson's wife, Tammy. She is a baby Catholic and must be exhausted with all of this Christian abuse coming from her husband. Who knows how he talks to her at home? Yeah, I have no idea. I think he has an underlying anger, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that he like yells at his wife or his daughter. I definitely don't get that from Michaela. I definitely would not assess that. And I don't want to be in the business of what he's in the business of, like diagnosing him, you know, because he's unable to just accept that people disagree with him on the notion of Christ being king. Gregory's Brain writes, I met Jordan a week ago and he's nothing like he portrayed himself to be in his own lectures. I'm very disappointed. He wasn't interested in anything I had to say, but rather just telling me how to think. Keep up the great work. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Those that can't do teach. He just wants people to listen to him, and he doesn't want to listen to people. Allie writes, Candace, I was once told by a friend who was a Capitol Records exec that both Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom love microdosing on shrooms. I believe Katy Perry def microdosed before this. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think they were on something. Like, there was a different kind of trip. And they probably just, like, sat in the castle and, like, because that's how they were acting. Oh, it was very hippy-dippy. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. Ashley Blair writes, hello, Candace. I've been a huge fan of yours for years. After your maternity leave, will you consider going on tour around the country? I'm in New York City and would love to see you in person. We are actually planning on doing a tour, a couple of tours in 2026. One in America, a little baby tour at the beginning of 2026. And then I should finally be doing my Australia tour if we win the lawsuit. By the way, if you are in Australia or New Zealand, or even if you're in America, the company that was paying for my tour promotion is obviously now hundreds of thousands of dollars paying for this lawsuit, which is going to the Supreme Court in Australia, the High Court of Australia. That hearing. It's a full bench, so it's going to be a very big deal. It's Candace Owens versus the Commonwealth of Australia. One way or the other, I'm making history in Australia. But they have a give, send, go that is up as they're trying to raise the money for the costs. It's all way above board. They've even named a charity that if we win the case, because then they would have to pay for our legal fees, like Australia would have to pay for our legal fees, then that money is going to go to a free speech organization. But they are trying to raise money. I mean, I think they are ballpark, like they've spent thus far $400,000 just be able to try to get me to to the Supreme Court to be able to have my case heard. And I'm very happy and honored that they are sitting. The full bench is going to sit for this. Like I said, it will be a big deal one way or the other. But if you are planning on going to that tour, they are trying to raise, as you can see in the corner, money for the legal fees and the expenses that we didn't expect when I just said I was going to go to New Zealand and Australia. So anybody that has the capacity to give, we would deeply appreciate that. Beyond that, letting you guys know, there's a new Shot in the Dark episode that's dropping today. So A Shot in the Dark episode 17 will be available on CandaceOwens.com, which you guys will find all sorts of things. Also, we have the book club on Friday. Don't forget, we're making up the day that I was sick, the day I got sick from the Fahi yogurt that almost took me out. And we're going to do that on Friday. We're going to continue reading Hollywood Babylon, so you still have time. We literally just cracked open that book. So it's a fitting time for us to talk about Hollywood. We're going to talk about psychiatry. We're going to talk about Sigmund Freud. And basically, it's going to terrify you. I think every book that I'm asking you to read is going to terrify you and awaken you to everything that's happening in the world. And you're going to walk away thinking, yes, we do live in a matrix. Anyways, you guys, that's all we have for today. I'll see you tomorrow.